Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of the That Time I Got Reincarnated as a slime light novel summary series on AniMonolith. Picking up from where we left off, the story shifts to a quiet room where Gadra, the hero of the East, is lost in thought. For years, Gadra had waited for this opportunity, his long-awaited revenge against the Western Holy Church and the Seven Luminaries. But just as the Empire was preparing for war, Stormdragon Veldora returned. This event threw the Empire's leadership into turmoil, splitting them into three opposing factions. The first wanted to subdue Veldora using their newly developed weapons. The second urged caution, suggesting a delay until Veldora disappeared. The third favored continuing the invasion but avoiding the Jura region altogether to steer clear of Veldora. These internal divisions delayed the Empire's plans from the very beginning. After all, Veldora's previous rampage had wiped out a significant portion of the Imperial army 350 years ago. Even now, with advanced weaponry, it was unclear if they could defeat such a being. Eventually, the majority favored avoiding Jura or postponing the invasion, but the final decision still lay with Emperor Rudra. Gadra, meanwhile, focused not on Veldora, but on his true enemy, Luminism and the Seven Luminary Clerics, who had long ruled the West and were responsible for the death of his closest friend. Though rumors claimed that the Seven Luminaries had been defeated, and even Hero Granbell had perished, Gadra refused to believe it. He was wary of misinformation from the West and suspected Granbell had simply gone underground. Having survived Veldora's destruction once, Gadra understood just how dangerous the dragon truly was. He believed the Empire's new weapons could slow Veldora down, but destroying him outright was another matter. Gadra submitted a report advising caution, but Emperor Rudra dismissed it. If there are those who want to try, I won't stop them. To make matters worse, Demon Lord Rimuru had now entered the picture. According to rumors, Rimuru had tamed Veldora shortly after annihilating 20,000 soldiers from Falmuth. Gadra doubted the rumors at first, but Veldora's changed behavior suggested they weren't entirely false. Furthermore, Rimuru had defeated the cunning Clayman and quickly unified the entire Jura forest. He'd also established diplomatic relations with human nations and gained increasing influence in the Western Council. Gadra concluded that launching an invasion into Jura would be a serious mistake. Even with the Empire's full force, fighting on Rimuru's home turf would lead to heavy losses and weaken any subsequent conquest of the inner Western nations. He also grew suspicious of the dungeon beneath Tempest, believing it might be the site of secret weapons development. Thus, Gadra's next step was to investigate it. Still, despite recognizing Tempest's threat, Gadra made one critical misjudgment, believing the Western Church was the greater obstacle, not Rimuru. This false assumption may prove to be his downfall. Later, the scene returns to Yuki, who has arranged for three otherworlders to assist Gadra in his dungeon investigation. Shinji Tanemura, a former university student from Japan, known for his research expertise and signature white lab coat. Mark Lauren, a muscular, brown-haired man in his mid-20s, the oldest of the group who's always dressed like it's summer. Gin Liu Sing, a quiet, enigmatic man wearing a traditional loose-fitting outfit, always hiding weapons beneath his clothing. These three individuals, each unique and capable, will now work under Gadra as part of the next phase in the Empire's game against Tempest. Previously, in order to build relations with Gadra and the Empire, Yuki frequently gathered otherworlders from around the world and introduced them to Gadra. While Gadra sought knowledge from these individuals, he also trained those with potential, preparing them for battle. These recruits were eventually assigned to the Mixed Corps, an elite unit composed of warriors who had mastered unique skills. Among them, Yuki considered Shinji, Mark, and Shin his most exceptional team. After a warm reunion with Gadra, the three listened attentively, expecting a major mission. But when Yuki announced their assignment was to investigate a labyrinth, they were visibly underwhelmed, especially since they had once been told of Yuki's grand vision to overthrow the Empire and take over the world. However, as Yuki explained the details, their disappointment turned to alarm. This labyrinth, located in Tempest, was no ordinary dungeon. It was large enough to conceal an entire city and potentially held secrets that could threaten the Empire's future. Yuki emphasized the mission's importance. The Empire planned to invade Jura, but unless they saw Tempest as a true threat, they wouldn't commit a large enough force. If Shinji's team could reveal the labyrinth's danger, it could provoke the Empire into mobilizing more troops, creating an opportunity for Yuki's planned coup d'etat. With the army occupied on the front lines, Yuki would strike at the heart of the Empire. What shocked the trio even more was Yuki discussing this plan openly in front of Gadra. But Gadra responded with a sinister smile, stating bluntly, "I don't care whether the Empire lives or dies." Though loyal in action, Gadra felt no real allegiance to the Empire. His true goal was revenge, destroying the Luminism faith and killing the Seven Luminaries who murdered his friend. While Gadra had no personal grudge against Rimuru, Rimuru's alliance with Luminous, the goddess behind Luminism, made him an enemy by association. Gadra also suspected Rimuru was involved in the mysterious survival of one of his former apprentices, Razen, during Veldora's attack on Falmuth. To confirm this, Gadra planned to temporarily separate from Shinji's group to investigate further. Before they departed, Gadra briefed them on their true opponents, Demon Lord Rimuru and Demon Lord Ramirez. Once a labyrinth had existed in the Republic of Urgracia, and was said to be home to Ramirez, the Fairy of the Labyrinth. But it vanished shortly after Rimuru declared himself a Demon Lord, and around the same time, Tempest revealed its own dungeon. Gadra believed Ramirez had relocated to Tempest and was now working with Rimuru. Shinji's team was stunned. Not only were they facing Rimuru, rumored to have tamed the storm dragon Veldora, but also a primordial demon lord. Their simple investigation had turned into a high-stakes mission. Realizing the true weight of their task, the three promised to proceed with caution, as they left for the outskirts of Tempest under Kigali's supervision. Having taught Shinji and his group the terrifying extent of the labyrinth, Gadra believed that they would be cautious when investigating. 10 days after dispatching Shinji's group, Gadra began his personal journey to the former kingdom of Falmuth. His goal? To find Razen, his former disciple. The story shifts to Falmuth, where Razen, now a high-ranking officer, suddenly senses a powerful presence. It's unmistakably Gadra, whom he once thought long dead. Realizing Gadra must have come with a purpose and fearing the palace guards might provoke him, Razen rushes toward the gate to intercept him before things escalate. Using magic communication, Razen contacts Sar, his disciple and former Holy Church elite, who has also sensed Gadra's arrival. Together with Grigory, they hurry to meet their mentor. These two had once been members of the three Battle Sages, but after blindly following the seven luminaries and supporting Falmuth, they could no longer return to the Holy Church. During a later mission in Falmuth, the two met Razen. Sharing a common trauma, being crushed by Diablo, they bonded quickly. Eventually, Razen accepted them as disciples. With Falmuth desperately short on powerful fighters, Sare and Grigory quickly rose to become top officers in the city's security force. Back at the gate, Gadra arrives, only to be stopped by Sare and Grigory, who don't recognize him. But Razen quickly intervenes. Let him through! Not out of concern for Gadra, but because he doesn't want to see his two disciples flattened. Razen kneels and greets his former master with respect. Though mentally prepared for a fight if needed, he's relieved when Gadra simply accepts the greeting and agrees to a proper discussion the following day. The next day, a meeting is held. Attendees include Yum, Grucius, Razen, and Razen's disciples. Miurin is absent, having just given birth to a baby girl named Mime, and Yum has insisted she rest. When asked what he came for, Gadra begins the meeting by giving sharp, accurate critiques of everyone's strengths and weaknesses, despite only meeting most of them the day before. His assessments are spot on, leaving everyone speechless. Razen, familiar with his master's abilities, says nothing. But Sar and Grigory take offense, believing Gadra has no right to judge them. Sometimes the best way to fix fools is to beat them down, Gadra says, and challenges them both to a sparring match. The result is one-sided. Gadra effortlessly defeats both Sare and Grigory, overwhelming them with ease. But the outcome surprises Gadra in an unexpected way. Instead of despairing, the two calmly accept their loss, and casually mention that Diablo was far stronger. What? Gadra is taken aback. These men had faced a demon even more powerful than himself, and survived. After the match, Razen suggests they move on to the main discussion. Gadra nods, slightly shaken, but intrigued by the mystery behind this demon stronger than me. During the resumed meeting, Gadra finally revealed the reason for his visit. He wanted Falmuth to surrender to the Empire. His hatred was solely directed at the Luminous faith, not the nation of Falmuth itself. In his mind, surrendering would spare the country from destruction, and in turn, cut off a major food supply to the Dwarven Kingdom, making it easier for the Empire to conquer them. However, Razen quickly shot down this brilliant idea. Thanks to Tempest's Magi train line now running directly to Dwarven, they no longer relied on Falmuth for supplies. In fact, even if Falmuth were to betray the West, Dwarven would still receive full support from Tempest. Clearly irritated by Gadra's outdated thinking, Razen argued that the world had changed. Under Tempest's influence, warfare had become a battle of economies. If Falmuth betrayed the Western nations, it would be cut off and collapse. Even if the Empire supported it, the country could never prosper as it did now. Gadra nodded, quietly realizing Razen was right. He had known about the train system, but had hoped for a different answer. His real goal wasn't surrender, it was to learn more about Rimuru. So he posed another question. Isn't Tempest afraid of an attack from the angels? The response was unanimous, no. Rimuru wasn't afraid of material losses. His priority was protecting people. That aligned with what Gadra had already heard, but hearing it firsthand left no doubt. Then came the real shock. Razen revealed that the Rosso family had lost power. Rimuru himself had wiped out the 20,000 Falmuth soldiers, and the 7 luminaries had all been defeated. Granbull was vaporized by Cardinal Nikolaos. Gadra was stunned. He immediately realized something chilling. Yuki had deliberately withheld this information. The plan had always been to provoke Gadra's hatred and manipulate him into investigating Tempest. Rimuru, it turned out, was far more dangerous than Gadra had imagined. Still, Gadra's grudge hadn't faded. Even though the 7 luminaries were gone, Luminous, and the faith that caused his best friend's death, still lived. However, Razen pleaded with his master to let go of the revenge. It was not because Rimuru was too scary, but because under his command was Diablo, a very, very scary person. Razen admitted his loyalty to Gadra remained strong, but his loyalty to Diablo was even stronger. If Gadra pushed forward with his revenge, the day might come when master and disciple would become enemies. This deeply unsettled Gadra. What kind of demon could inspire that level of loyalty in someone like Razen? He then screamed when he heard Razen say that Diablo claimed to be a demon peer. Gadra was floored. In the Empire, demons were studied closely, and even the strongest only reached the level of High Archdemon. The only one who had surpassed that ceiling was Guy Crimson, the Lord of Darkness. If Diablo had truly reached the level of a demon peer, something that should be impossible, it could mean only one thing. He was a primordial. That revelation hit Gadra like a hammer. He recalled Blanc, a primordial who once wreaked havoc on the Empire. Her cruelty left a scar on the nation that never faded. And now Diablo, likely another primordial, had joined Rimuru. Just as Gadra was reeling from that realization, Yum cheerfully chimed in. Diablo-sama is the boss's butler. I heard he's been recruiting some of his acquaintances to help with chores. Then Grucius added the final blow. If you mean that white-haired woman with the stunning red eyes, I saw her. She's now the military attaché of Tempest. Gadra froze. That woman's description matched Blanc perfectly. At that moment, Gadra collapsed into his chair, pale and defeated. The worst-case scenario was now a reality. He looked at the others hoping for a different answer, but their grim nods confirmed it. He was facing a monster not just in Rimuru, but in his subordinates as well. And worst of all, he had sent a trio of agents into Tempest, possibly into the Lion's Den. With dread rising in his chest, Gadra whispered to himself, I just hope the boys make it back alive. And that was all for today's video. Thank you for listening. Goodbye and see you in the next AniMonolith videos.